Our podcast is brought to you by We Push Back. In the last few years, a certain genre on social media has been plagued with informants who misrepresent the truth to benefit themselves. They've gone unchecked for far too long. This smoke and mirrors routine is what has plagued the criminal justice system, resulting in many wrongful convictions. We Push Back is about bringing attention to these informants who have little regard for the truth and offering a voice to all those impacted by their lies. This website will work as a united hub, bringing all related information to one portal. We Push Back.
Here he is.
What's up, Counselor?
Is this the Cannoli King?
What's up, Counselor? Good, good.
How you doing? How's everything?
Good.
Now, the main thing, the center of Little Italy, is this place, Caffe Palermo. And this man, John DeLutro, also known as the Cannoli King. John, could you give us a little look at what you're serving in this place?
Sure. I serve cannoli.
All right, let's look. We're here again in Little Italy again with baby John DeLutro, the Cannoli King. We're in Caffe Palermo. This is the center of Little Italy. This is the place that bridges the history of it all with the future. All right, and I want John to just give you a little tour of what he's got to offer in this fabulous place.
Right here we have my gelato, which is imported from Milan, Italy. We have multiple flavors: pistachio, gianduja, which is hazelnut and chocolate, Nocella, chocolate chip, chocolate, all different flavors, and sorbettos.
And over here, John?
Over here, these are also come from Italy. Some of these products, these are all copas. Copa cannellina, copa strawberry, copa chocolate and chips. They're all Italian gelatos with flavors. You know, these are my favorites here. These are called bombolinos. They're little baby cream puffs with vanilla and chocolate Nutella inside. And these have all flavored sorbettos. And these are the cheese cones.
Okay, what do we got up here? Those are pretty big bottles.
These are advertisement. You know, Aperol today is the #1 drink in America, all over the country.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Aperol.
What do we got down here, John?
This we got my famous lobster tails, okay? Carrot cake, my famous tiramisu we make. We got a few cookies left over.
Those black and whites.
Yeah, that's for kids.
Too bad it's too early for me.
Kids happy.
Oh boy, this is really too much. This is overwhelming.
A lot of these are my best sellers, like my chocolate profiteroles, my pistachio cheesecake, my red devil cake, my Oreo cookies are off the wall. And here is my famous cannolis that put me on the map. These are all my cannolis. We make multiple flavors, but being at San Gennaro, I can't keep up with all the flavors. So I make my original, I make my chocolate, I make my Oreo, I make my pistachio, hazelnut, caramel, and red devil.
How about this chocolate outrage?
Yeah, this is even better cake, the blackout cake.
And what's that one? Oh my God.
Chocolate mousse.
Woo!
Those are my red devil.
And the pistachios are pretty big.
My pistachios, besides my original, my pistachios are the second biggest seller because all my pistachio is imported from Italy. And you have to try one. You have to try one.
And John, I could see, true to your advertising, everything's done on the premises.
Everything's on the premises.
We're watching the chocolate cannoli.
Look at my kitchen, it's about 25 square feet.
How many of these do you make every day here?
We make enough, Matty, we make enough. There's no number, we make enough.
What about your frozen business? I know you're going to start shipping these all over the world.
I'm going to show you my box. Tino.
John, I see that you also serve liquor here.
Yeah, I got a full bar.
Great.
And those are flavor syrups for cappuccino.
So this is a place where you not only could stop and have all these wonderful desserts that are out of this world, but you could also have a drink too.
Yes. Yeah, all kinds of cocktails, martinis.
Could you tell us the history of how you started this?
I started in 1973 after I lost my mom. and my original investment was $50. I started with $50, and I had no showcases. I bought the cake from Caffe Palermo. That's how I started. And I used to bring the cake home every night in my refrigerator, my grandmother's refrigerator, until eventually I made a few dollars, and I bought my first showcase, a second showcase. Here I am 49 years later, worked big money, will never sell. My grandchildren will be here one day. These are one of my boxes. Oh, and by the way, next year is my 50th anniversary, so everyone's invited to come.
I'll be here for sure.
These are my new boxes that just came out. The cannoli shells with the cream on the side.
Okay.
And I just picked up a contract for Publix and for Wegmans. They should be coming out in 4 months.
Okay.
You know?
So this is what's going out of here in the future and now.
Yes, but not out of this location.
No, no. But it's going to be the same thing.
Same,
that you get
same
here
exactly
on Mulberry
product.
Street.
Yeah, because the cream is frozen, so you fill them as you eat them. This is my personal kit. It's a take-home kit, 1995, or 1999, whatever it is, and it's 6 mini cannolis with a cannoli bag and 6 mini shells, and you can buy this in any flavor. So each cannoli bag that's going to be in there, this will be a plain one, chocolate one, pistachio one. So when you go shopping, any flavor you want, you could have.
It's a great concept. It's a great concept.
Yeah.
Okay, now look, I'm looking at all these tables. They should be filled up.
Honestly, Matty, I'm happy when it's like this.
Yeah.
I have a little peace of mind because from 2 o'clock on to 2 o'clock in the morning, it's nonstop. It gets crazy.
That's not just in the San Gennaro Festival.
It's all year round.
All year round.
I got lines all year round.
You ever close?
Only Christmas Eve I close and New Year's Eve.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm open all year round.
Thanks a lot for giving us a tour of Caffe Palermo.
Thank you.
I want everybody who ever watches our podcast to make sure you make a trip here. It don't have to be for no festival. It could be any day of the week.
And thank you for stopping by, Counselor. Be good.
Okay, so now we're headed toward Grand Street. And Grand Street really is a grand street. It's another crossroads of Little Italy and very famous for a lot of different reasons. As you can see, the feast has really progressed since I was a kid. I want you to look up there where it says Italian Feast. That used to be a place called Fontana's. And now it's another Italian market, and if I'm not mistaken, Tony Danza is one of the owners there. When you look down there, there's Oliva's, who's been there for my whole lifetime, and Ferrara. Ferrara's is one of the central businesses in Little Italy for my whole life. They ship their goods, their products, bakery products, cookies, all over the world. And in fact, this building over here, 191 Grand Street, was where my mother lived before she was married, and where she left on the day of her wedding to come out of that door over there, and that's the beginning of Matthew Mary. Again, another interesting thing is right in the middle of this Little Italy is another hotel. I can't believe there's another hotel here, but there it is. Anyhow, let's continue. Uh-oh, nobody's in there, right? All right, thank God. Get rid of them. It never ends. Not just the feast, but all of these wonderful food places that are incredible. And I have to confess that they've grown through the years into really major league food facilities on every block. We're coming close up here to the famous Don Nico restaurant, which is one of the best in Little Italy. And of course, Piemonte Ravioli Company. This is something that's probably here for 100 years, I think. Okay, as we look to our left, we're going to see La Mela, 4 restaurants connected to each other. Another new restaurant here. When I say new for me means like 20 years old. Lanella Restaurant. Benito 1. This has been here a long time, maybe 30 years. Earlier today, Baby John, the Cannoli King, told us that when he first started Caffe Palermo, that he had to buy his stuff from this place right here, Caffe Roma. Caffe Roma is an Italian facility that serves everything. They serve food, they serve cookies, they serve dessert. The funny thing about Caffe Roma is that if you go inside, it looks much the same as it did in 1950. No changes at all. Now, as we look to our left, we're going to see a restaurant that's brand new, but totally remodeled. It used to be the Grotta Azzurra, meaning the Blue Grotto, the Blue Cave, and the owner of this restaurant, Frank, he gutted everything out, the whole building, and redid everything, and now it's another thriving new restaurant in Little Italy, coming from the ashes of the old restaurant. Still the same place, still great food, great wine, great parties. It's right next to the old police headquarters. Now we're at the corner of Mulberry and Broome Street, which is a great spot for me. My father and his family lived right down the block at 373 Broome Street. That's way before I was born. Again, there you see the sign for Grotta Azzurra, and I'm told that the famous Charles Lucky Luciano used to hang out here in full battle array, dressed to kill in a suit and tie and hat, and he would stand on that corner, right on the corner of Broome and Mulberry Street, and once in a while meet some of his friends there. So we're leaving Broome Street, continuing down Mulberry Street. This is one of the best stands in the San Gennaro feast. Sausage and broccoli, Pip's Pit, okay? The people who operate this particular stand have lived in Little Italy for all of my life and before, and they're still here. There are not many people who still live here in Little Italy that were here when I was born. Right? It's changed a lot. It's all Chinatown, which is great. The Chinese people are great, great people, and the Italian people and the Chinese people have always gotten along perfectly. You've got to remember, Little Italy is right next to Chinatown. It just so happened that Chinatown expanded to every single neighborhood around here, and still Mulberry Street remains the same, a haven for Italian food, Italian restaurants, and Italian culture. So, as I walk down this block, I see a lot of new places, things that I haven't seen before, and that's what's great about the San Gennaro Festival. It's always changing, and I'd say it's always changing for the better. You've got people coming from all around the world to this block, the block where I was born. And I've got to say that I'm very proud. Wow, look at all this stuff. Pretty good. With all this food, you know what sells the most? T-shirts. The Godfather t-shirts, all kinds of t-shirts, all kinds of paraphernalia, gifts, gift shops. Rule Little Italy, let me tell you. But that doesn't stop the food. Here we've got, I talked about Ferrara's bakery before, okay? Now Ferrara's has a stand right here, but this kind of stuff comes out of their store on Grand Street, and they package it and sell it and send it all around the country. We're crossing Kenmare Street and entering the final block of the feast. Hope we can get across here, but I think we can make it. Let's give it a try. Okay. Right here you got a new building. I don't know if it's an office building or a residential building, but all sorts of things are cropping up here. in the middle of what used to be only tenements. Kind of interesting how the neighborhood has changed. There's always a little friction, you know, between the new people who don't like this kind of Italian festival and the old people who insist that it remains. But so far, as you can see, the feast is thriving, and it's Sunday afternoon. It's not even 1 o'clock. You know, we had intended to stay all day and all night. I don't know how long we can stay, but I think it's going to be too tough to breathe in just a little while. You know, when I grew up here, I always would walk on the sides of the street and never walked up the middle of the street because it's always too crowded. And I always enjoyed walking up the sidewalks because there were so many social clubs. You would stop at every one, maybe 6 or 7, have a drink everywhere. And it was really great to see all the old timers. And now those days are gone. There's like very few people left here who are living in Little Italy. You got a lot of business people who come here to work, and thank God that they preserved Mulberry Street for Italian heritage and for Italian restaurants and for Italian food. This is a bar. They call it the Spring Lounge. It used to be called Chappie's Bar. Okay, and there were some very famous people who came from this block. Okay, here we are on, let's see, Spring Street, and Chappie's Bar was a great place. There used to be a man named Pete DeFeo, who was a wonderful guy who helped everyone in the neighborhood, who came from this area right here. And there were many social clubs here too. As you look down Spring Street, you're going to see, well, we can't see it from here, but one of the greatest pizza places in all of New York City called Lombardi's. Lombardi's is just a great place to eat and a great place to go, and it's got a lot of tradition, a lot of history behind it. Okay, now we're headed up from Spring Street to Prince Street. This is finally the last block of the feast, and a very important one. Once upon a time, there was a social club called the Ravenite Social Club. Pardon me?
Lombardi's.
Right down the block.
Right down the block?
Right down the block.
Are you like the king of
No,
the
I'm just a guy who walks around Mulberry Street, you know?
Oh, good. All right. That's
Okay. So I think this is like a commercial for the San Gennaro Festival. I think somebody should be paying me. I think I got to find out who's in charge of this damn thing. We don't know anymore. Years ago, you did know who was in charge. Now, you got to wonder. Probably Mayor Adams. Anyhow, there was a social club called the Ravenite Social Club, and it was operated by a gentleman called Agnello della Croce. Many people called him Mr. O'Neill. And Agnello della Croce was a very imposing figure. It was my privilege to meet him as a young boy. And I can tell you, he was very tall, and he looked down upon me with those steel eyes and said hello in a very deep voice. And when you were standing in front of Agnello della Croce, you know you were standing in front of somebody. And he was a wonderful man. Everybody in the neighborhood loved him. And his social club, yeah, there were a lot of people that the government was looking at, but there were also regular people from the neighborhood, just working guys, going in and out of this social club, all right? They were welcome there. People would play cards. People would have espresso. People would have a cup of coffee. After Mr. Della Croce died, John Gotti started hanging out in the social club. And here it is, 247 Mulberry Street. I don't know what this is. It looks like a clothing store, all right? It's a clothing store for yuppies. It's a clothing store for the elite. It's a clothing store for the Soho people. There's not even anything in it. Let's take a look. Oh my God. Yeah, there used to be card tables in there. There used to be a great bar inside there. There used to be very, very accommodating people in there, like Agnello della Croce and like John Gotti. And you know, I want you to take a shot of this building across the street, because while Osama bin Laden was formulating the Al-Qaeda organization and the FBI knew nothing about him, didn't know who he was, the FBI had rented apartments across the street and they had cameras going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, watching this place, watching 247 Mulberry Street. And you know what they were watching? They were watching John Gotti come in and out with his friends. And they were watching John Gotti walk down the block. And they watched John Gotti talking to people. And you know, when people are walking and people are talking, they're just walking and talking. But when John Gotti was walking and talking, it was a crime. It's a crime. This is evidence. This is evidence. Look at them. Look what they're doing. They're in that club, 247 Mulberry Street, the Ravenite Social Club. They're walking. They're talking. Oh my goodness gracious. They spent millions and millions of dollars bugging the entire club, bugging the entire building, the hallways. They bugged an apartment of an old lady where John Gotti used to visit once in a while. And they bugged everything and spent millions of dollars over years and years and years of surveillance. And at the same time they're bugging this place and having a surveillance 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. They don't know anything about Osama bin Laden. When Colonel Oliver North appeared before a Senate committee, and then Senator Al Gore was a senator on that committee, Al Gore asked Oliver North, how come you spent $365,000 to secure your home? And Colonel Oliver North said, because I've been marked for death by the most dangerous man in the world. And Senator Al Gore, before he became vice president, Senator Al Gore said, who might be the most dangerous man in the world? You know, they thought John Gotti was. Oliver North said the most dangerous man in the world is Osama bin Laden. And Senator Gore says, oh, what? He didn't even know how to pronounce this guy's name, and he didn't even understand what was going on. So while Al-Qaeda was being formulated by Osama bin Laden, and they were planning an attack on the United States, the government was busy watching John Gotti. And it wasn't enough to have cameras rolling across the street, to have the whole building bugged. But as we walk further, come on, let's take a walk. As we walk a little further, you're going to see that there are traffic lights on that corner. And there are regular traffic lights, and there are traffic lights that used to say walk and don't walk. And inside those traffic lights, the government had cameras and microphones, and that's what they were concerned with. There's a mailbox. There's a mailbox on that corner. I'm very familiar with it because my wife, before she was my wife, lived on that corner. And many a time, John Gotti would be walking down this block with his friends and talking. And then he'd stop at the mailbox. And they had the mailbox bugged. They had everything bugged. Everything was covered except Al-Qaeda. This is Prince Street. Prince Street was actually the home of many of my favorite people from the neighborhood, the Palermo brothers. I'm talking about Little Joe Becky. I'm talking about Peter Beck. I'm talking about Charlie Brody, all of whom I knew growing up as a little kid and then later on as a lawyer. And this is where they were. They had clubs here, social clubs, and I always enjoyed myself as a kid and then later on as a young man coming to Prince Street. This here facility is what they call Old St. Patrick's Cathedral. And it's a massive, massive building. The church itself, this is the back end of the church. And it goes all the way through to Mott Street. And This is one of the premier churches before the current St. Patrick's Cathedral was built. This was the center of the Catholic Church in New York City. Let's take a quick look. So, as we walk down Prince Street from Mulberry Street, we leave the San Gennaro Festival proper, and we just take a little detour to one of my favorite places, the school, St. Patrick's School, where my wife went to school and many other people I know, is now closed like many other Catholic schools. But fortunately for us, the old St. Patrick Cathedral Church is still open. Its doors are still open. Now, here you can see a lot of yuppie stuff here. Used to be old social clubs. One after another after another. I don't know what the heck they're selling now. Don't look like it's worth buying, I can tell you that. I can never forget this church because on September 20th, 1980, I stepped out of a limousine right here and I walked into this church. On September 20th, 1980. And at the end of this hour was my wife waiting for me. And I got married that day. I was pretty nervous. So, that's a view of the San Gennaro Festival here, September 2022. I'm so happy to see that everything's back in order after this terrible pandemic that ruined everything for everybody. And hopefully we're back on the road to recovery. Not just our businesses, but a lot of broken hearts took place during the pandemic. A lot of people were misplaced. And hopefully we could all get back to living a normal life. But as I walked down Mulberry Street today, I couldn't help but feeling positive feelings that although the old days were great, maybe there's still a lot left to come. And that's a view from Mulberry Street.